All right, if you were not here when we took these notes and learned about this stuff, you can use this video to fill in your digital communication notes. All right, so we start with email. Now, email is a fantastic tool and we can use it all the time, but there are some downsides. First thing you need to know about is an attachment, and we've used those. These are files that we send along with an email, but you need to be very careful because this is a very common way viruses are spread. If you ever get an email from someone you don't know and there's an attachment, it is a virus. If you get an email from someone you do know but the attachment's got a weird name, it could still be a virus because viruses need to spread, and so one of the things they'll do is they'll go in and send itself to everyone in the address book. So you just really have to be careful. If you aren't expecting an attachment from someone, then I would not open it. Spam is another downside of email. It's estimated that up to 80% of all email is spam. So this is the unsolicited email, the junk mail, and it's just clogging the whole system. Now, there's not a lot we can do about it right now, but two things for sure. Use the filter. Okay, Google, Gmail, they've got a spam filter. The more you mark things as spam, the more it learns what is spam, and it is better. The other thing is never reply. Sometimes in a spam email, there's like a little link that says unsubscribe. If you click that, you are telling them that your email address is a real address and now it's worth more money. So don't ever do that. If you need to sign up for things online, you know, a lot of people just create like a second email account and that's the one they use for the shopping, and then their real address is the one for personal use. So it's a problem, but we can sort of mitigate it a bit. Okay, phishing is a dangerous trend. So this happens through email. If it happens through texting, it's called smishing. So same idea, but it's someone who's pretending to be a legitimate company and then requesting personal or account information within that email. So you get an email from Google or eBay or your credit card or Comcast, right? And so it says, hey, we need you to take some sort of action because of, oftentimes they'll use a scare tactic like you haven't changed your password in so long, and so we're going to lock you out. And there's a link. And so you think, oh, I'll just click this link and I'll go do that. Well, the problem is you're not going to the actual, eBay site or your bank's site. You're going to one that looks pretty close, but that they, the bad guys have made so that it looks similar and to get you to put in your information, and then they've just stolen all of that. This is horribly a big issue. Sometimes the heads of companies fall for this, and then they expose everyone else who works there because they've given away personal information. So if you get an email, like unless you have personally gone to reset your password and then you got the email, otherwise ignore those ones. And then fraud. Fraud is when we try to trick people for money. This happens in email a lot. So phishing, we already know about that. A lot of the content of spam will be frauds, fake lotteries, like, oh, you've won some money, or, different ways they're trying to get you to, work at home, which isn't a real thing. And you can look at the numbers over here. So the fake jobs are 14.9% of all fraud online. Online shopping is a big one. But, a lot of these could happen through email, so we just have to be careful. All right, on to networks. You use networks every day, so we should know a little bit about them. A network is just two or more computers that are linked together. Usually they share resources, and that's the reason for linking them, but if there's a link, it's a network. This could be a wired connection, or more often in today's world, it's wireless. It's using Wi-Fi. On a network, there's really two types of computers. There's the client. These are the computers that receive the data. That's the role you play most of the time. And then there's servers, and servers are the ones that host the data. So you want to watch funny cat videos, you go to YouTube. YouTube has a server that hosts funny cat videos, and you as the client request to see them, and then that information is transferred to your computer. Now, in order for this to work, every computer needs a street address, right? Like, how do we know where to send it? And that's the job of the IP address. So every device connected to the internet must have this IP address. Now, we are using, a lot of devices use IP version 4, which is the big numbers that we see here, but we're running out of numbers because It's not just computers, it's phones, it's your Amazon Echo, it's your DVR, it's your smart TV, it's your smart fridge. Like all of the things that connect have to have an IP address. And so we're running out. So now we're using IPv version 6, which includes, you can see, some letters as well. So the idea is we'll never run out if we continue with that. All right, so the internet then is a worldwide system of interconnected networks. So little networks were popping up, and then they would start to join together and become bigger and then bigger and bigger. Eventually, right, like nobody set out to create one that was global, but that just is what happened. And so the internet is considered to be all of those networks, all of the hardware. If we talk about the web, usually we're talking about content on the internet, but the internet, for this class, we're talking about the actual computers and connections. The URL, this is how we get around, is the web address, right? So if you want to look up funny cat videos, you need to know the name of the page. So when everybody got together and said, look, here's what we're going to do, and this stands for Uniform Resource Locator. So uniform means we all use the same. So HTTP, that's the Hypertext Transfer Protocol. So we're all going to do it the same way. The resource is the page you want to see, and then the locator is the address. So this is the name, the domain is the name of the computer where this is being stored. Top level domain like .com, .edu, .gov, right? We got a lot of those now. And then once you're at the computer, we need to know what file you actually want. And so that comes after the slash. So in the real world, how does this happen? So let's say you want to go to yourfriend.com. That actually isn't a place. So we'll just try this. So first thing is you need to get online. So that's your ISP, your internet service provider. That's their job. They provide you with a modem and a router so that you can access the internet. So you type in www.yourfriend.com in your browser. Your ISP router sends it off. First thing is we don't know where that is. That's the name of a page, but where's that page located? So we need to go to a DNS server. This is like an address book. So it says, oh, yourfriend.com, no problem. This is the IP address of that server. Now, if this DNS server doesn't know, then it'll kick it to another one and then another one. But usually, this happens so quick you don't even realize it. Once we have the IP address, then we can find that computer with the URL. We know exactly what file you want. And then as part of the deal, you sent along your IP address so that this web server knows how to get it back to you. And so every time you go online, this is the process that it's following. Now, networks come in different sizes, and so we have different acronyms for those. So LAN is a local, that's the smallest area network. And then the largest is the wide area network. And we consider the internet a wide area because that's global, right? That's as big as we can get. In between are just different size things. So a metropolitan would be a city, right? Campus, we could consider, we have a campus area network here in Park City, or maybe like a university has one. But the key is you know that local is the smallest and a WAN wide is the largest. At your house, which is a local area network, you need to do some things to protect your network. The first thing is you need to turn on encryption. So as you are sitting on your laptop and typing away, there are wireless packets of information going from your computer to your router and vice versa. It's coming to you. Well, the thing is, if somebody were to have a device called a packet sniffer, they could be grabbing those out of the air and seeing what you're doing, right? Now, you might think, well, I'm not that interesting. Why would they want to do that? Well, you know, like people go to Starbucks or people go to, hotel, they're paying their bills. There's a lot of information that we need to protect. So what you do is in your router settings, you turn on encryption. And WPA2, that's the best. That's the strongest one we have right now. And so all of the information going back and forth is encrypted. So if someone does steal some of those packets, no big deal. It's all garbled. They don't know what it means. Another form of protection is a virtual private network, a VPN. What this does is it takes your internet activity and it runs it all through a single server that's somewhere else. Maybe it's in Africa, maybe it's in Canada, right? But all your web travels go through that server and it's all encrypted. But what this does is this makes it so that nobody sees where you're going, so it protects your privacy, and it encrypts all of your traffic so that if somebody were to intercept your data, they wouldn't be able to read it. So like you could put a VPN app on your phone, and oftentimes these will cost a little bit of money. But then if you go to Starbucks or McDonald's and they have their free Wi-Fi, you could turn your VPN on so that you are protected from anyone who's trying to steal information there, or if anybody's trying to set up, fake Amazon sites so that people accidentally go and enter in their information. You would be protected from all that because you are using a VPN. It does slow down your connection, but sometimes that's worth it. And then the third way to protect your network is a firewall. There are hackers out there who are just looking for vulnerabilities in operating systems and vulnerabilities in browsers. And if you have a firewall, what you're doing is you're putting this wall between your computer and the internet, so they can't even see if you have those vulnerabilities. So it controls all the connections going from your computer out and from anything out there coming in. And at first when you set it up, certain programs will be like, hey, I need to access the internet. Your antivirus software needs to access it. Maybe iTunes needs to access the internet. And so you allow those things, but then you get some random program wanting to connect out, and you're like, what? No. So maybe you just prevented spyware from communicating out. Or maybe you get this message of this site wants to connect, and you're like, what? No. And you just prevented a hacker from trying to connect to your computer. So a firewall is a great thing to have on. So the three things: you want to turn on encryption, you can use a VPN, and a firewall. Let's talk about the connections. Bandwidth is the term we use for the maximum amount of data transfer through a network, right? I don't know if you've ever run speedtest.net. I use it all the time on my network to see how it is performing. But different types of connections have different speeds, different bandwidth. So in the beginning, we had dial-up, and it was slow. 56 kilobits per second was as fast as it could go. There are still places in this country and around the world that use dial-up because they can't get access to other ways, and this makes the web almost unusable. It's so slow. Next step up was DSL, so we're still using the phone lines, but we're using them in a different manner. Now, depending on DSL is a very it's a way of connecting that isn't very reliable. Sometimes you get fast speeds, sometimes you get slow speeds. It depends on how many people are online. It depends on how close you are to the nearest station. So there's a lot of issues. And so, usually it was less than 50 megabits per second. But compared to dial-up, right, that's a huge step up. So that wasn't bad. Cable, so Comcast is bringing in your cable. Well, they figured, well, we could do internet this way as well, and they can. And so cable is a way to get faster speeds. The fastest that I've seen through cable is about 300 megabits. Most is much less than that. And the more you pay, the faster your speed, obviously. Then we have fiber optic, and only certain places have this available. It's expensive to run fiber optic, but if you have fiber optic, you could get up to a gigabit, so 1,000 megabits per second. And again, it depends on which payment plan, like which tier you will actually be on. But this is right now the fastest way. Now there's other ways that people, you can have it through satellite, which I think is about 15 to 30 megabits per second, right? You could try different ways. Google's launching balloons right now to try to use, instead of satellites, sort of a lower level to beam internet access to places. But right now these are the big four.